welcome back to Food Prep Guide. We're back in the kitchen today with another pantry mix video, and today we are making instant oatmeal cups. This is just a quick breakfast that you can prep ahead of time, prep multiple jars, multiple bags ahead of time, and it's just a way to get a quick healthy breakfast on the table that you know exactly what the ingredients are because you put them there. You don't have to worry about any of those questionable things that are in the store-bought packets sometimes. So we're going to be starting with oats, of course, and in our family we only purchase and store whole rolled oats. So the first thing we need to do is make our instant oats, and that all we have to do is run it through a food processor. Just in case you didn't know, the instant oatmeal is just regular whole rolled oats that have been processed into a little bit of a finer grain. So that's what we're going to do today, is just run this through the food processor before we start making our base mix. So for this recipe, I need 5 cups of oats, and that's going to yield us around 7 to 8 cups of end products, 7 to 8 packets, or I'm going to be using jars today because we're going to be adding a few more ingredients, and that's going to kind of make it stretch a little bit, but we're going to end up, the goal is 7 to 8 pint jars of instant oatmeal cups. So because of the size of my food processor, I'm going to be dividing it up into a batch of 2 cups and a batch of 3 cups because I find that I have tried doing it all 5 cups and it gets bogged down and can't really get the job done that way. So I'm just going to start with putting 2 cups in my food processor, and then we're just going to blend it up, and I'll show you the consistency that we're going for, but I mean, you already know the consistency that we're going for. It's just the instant oatmeal consistency that you get at the grocery store. Okay, let's get these processed. And I'm just going to blend until we get that consistency of regular instant oats. I'm just going to shake it up. I've got my spatula here, and I'm just going to kind of run it around because what we do run the risk of, let me see if I can see that. Okay, you see how right here it's actually starting to powder? We don't want powdered oats, right? We don't want oat flour. We want just instant oats. So I'm going to take my spatula and kind of rotate it around. This is another reason why you want to do small batches, because you don't want that bottom layer, bleh, I'm getting tongue-tied today. You don't want that bottom layer turning into flour. So I'm just going to get that all mixed up, and it looks like maybe just 1 or 2 more runs and we'll have it. Let's do one more time. And I'm just going to try the pulse this time. Just pulse it a couple times. It's looking pretty good. Let me pulse it in one more time. Okay, I think we're looking pretty good. Let me shake it up with my spatula again. We're getting borderline to where if I keep on going, we're going to end up more with powder instead of flakes. So we don't want that. And that's looking pretty good. That's looking about the consistency of instant oats, and that's what we're going for. So this batch is done. Now I'm just going to finish up processing the rest of these 5 cups, and we'll move on to the next.
By the way, if you would like help building your food storage, scroll down to the description box of this video and click this link for our free 1-year food storage plan. We calculated a year's supply of food for one person, then broke that data down into a week-by-week list of items to build your pantry on a budget. We'll send it straight to your inbox. If you're new here, we invite you to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss all of our upcoming food preservation, pantry storage, and gardening tutorials. Now back to the kitchen.
Okay, we have our 5 cups of instant oats and now ready to move forward with our base recipe. The next step is going to be 1 cup of coconut sugar. You can of course use any type of sugar that you want. I'm going to be using coconut sugar today. Another option is to not put any sugar in your packets and then just wait and sweeten it when you go to serve with like maple syrup or honey or any kind of sugar. But I like to go ahead and put coconut sugar in my base mix. So to these 5 cups, we're going to add 1 cup of coconut sugar. And to that, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. 1 teaspoon of salt. Try to get some that's not so clumpy. 1 teaspoon of salt, and then we need milk powder, and I forgot to grab my milk powder. Be right back. Okay, got my milk powder. So we need 1/2 cup of milk powder, and that's the last ingredient for the base mix, and then we'll get to the fun part where we do all of our flavorings. So 1/2 cup of milk powder. I'm gonna get my whisk and just mix it all together. Try to clump up or de-clump those chunks of coconut sugar as best I can. But some clumps are fine. When they cook up, it'll mix in pretty good. Okay, here's what our base mix is looking like. Got some clumps of coconut sugar, but that's okay. It'll taste really good. So now all we do is divide up this into our pint jars. Now these are single serving instant oatmeal packs. So I'm going to be putting 1 cup of this base mix into each jar, and then we'll discuss all the flavoring options that we'll be adding. Whenever you're making these up for your family, you can absolutely do just like I know a lot of people who will just put this base mix that I'm pouring out of this bowl, and they'll just transfer that to a Tupperware and won't even bother, putting it up into individual jars. And I might try that sometime just to see how it goes, but I really love having these grab and go snacks and breakfasts for my kiddos, especially on the weekends. They have actually gotten into the habit of cooking their own breakfast on the weekends, although they do prefer doing eggs in a blanket. They learned how to do French toast, scrambled eggs, and eggs in a blanket recently, and that's kind of like all they want lately, so that's okay. This is an excellent, delicious option to have on hand, and I just like to go ahead and have these jars ready. So we got 7 jars, so I'm just going to put this extra jar out of the way. We ended up with 7 jars, so now for the fun part is the flavoring. So the first one we're going to do is a blueberries and cream, and for this we're going to use dehydrated blueberries. Now this is where freeze-dried fruit really shines because of the almost instant hydration, especially when the fruit or the food is chopped really small. I am completely out of freeze-dried fruit, and I'm almost out of just regular dehydrated fruit. So this is the last jar of just dehydrated blueberries that I have on hand. But we also like to do like a strawberries and cream, and we would just use dehydrated or freeze-dried strawberries instead. So blueberries and cream and strawberries and cream, it's going to be the same, just swap out the blueberries for the strawberries. So for blueberries and cream, I like to do a 1/4 cup of whatever type of fruity flavoring that I'm doing. And then when it comes to seasoning like cinnamon or pumpkin pie spice, I like to do it in increments of 1 teaspoon. But as y'all know, when it comes to toppings and flavorings, that is really just to your taste. It doesn't have to be a certain measurement. This base recipe, that's the important part to get the measurements right on. The toppings is really just your choice. But for this blueberries and cream, I'm going to do a 1/4 cup of the dehydrated blueberries. And I think I'm going to do, let's see, I think I'll just do 2 jars. 2 jars of this. Oh, there's some strawberries in here too. Didn't know. Oh, you know what? This is a triple berry blend. So this is a frozen mixed fruit. You can absolutely dehydrate frozen fruit, and it works out wonderfully because you can also often catch some pretty good deals on frozen fruits and vegetables, and this was a triple berry blend. I remember now it had blueberries, strawberries, and cherries in it. So I guess it's going to be more like a triple berry cream. But I'm going to do a 1/4 cup of that. And then for the cream part, hold on a minute, let me get these out. I'm making a mess here. For the cream part, we're actually going to do a vanilla protein powder. Now, of course, there are all sorts of options here. This is just a vanilla cream vegan protein from Z Natural Foods that I had left over from a while ago. It's about 2 years old. It's in this Mylar bag, so it's still totally fine, but I do want to get it off my shelf and use it up since it is 2 years old. But any kind of vanilla protein shake would work excellent in oatmeal. Not only are you getting that vanilla flavor, but you're adding protein, which is fantastic because there's not a ton of protein in an oatmeal breakfast unless you were to add an egg, which we do that too sometimes. But just using a protein, especially vanilla flavored protein, works great. And I'm going to use a 1/4 cup of that as well. So a 1/4 cup of this vanilla protein powder. And that's what's going to give us our creamy blueberries and cream. And now these 2 jars are done. I'm going to set those aside. Let's work on the next 2. So for this next 2, I'm going to be doing a acai cranberry. Now again, we're going to be using some freeze-dried powder. Again, from Z Natural Foods, they have so many flavoring options, y'all. It's one of my favorite places to buy. Before I had a freeze dryer, this is where I bought almost all of my powders and freeze-dried foods. But this is an acai powder, and acai is extremely healthy. It has a whole lot of just vitamins and minerals in it, but it is very, very tart. So what I'm going to do to offset that tartness is when it comes time to make the oatmeal, I'm going to be adding some maple syrup to it, and I'll just kind of know that in the back of my mind that, hey, when we grab this one, whoever makes that needs to add a little dash of honey or maple syrup in it. But I'm going to do slightly less than a 1/4 cup of this acai powder. But like I said, just a 1/4 cup is my general rule for any type of fruit additive that I'm adding. And it's going to turn this oatmeal totally dark purple, which is really fun for the kids. And to that, I'm going to add a little bit of dried cranberries to get our acai cranberry mixture. I'm going to do a 1/4 cup of this as well. My cranberries are really sticking together here. So a 1/4 cup cranberries and another 1/4 cup of cranberries. And I will just know that I'm going to add maple syrup and honey to these when it comes time to make, just to offset that tartness a little bit. Okay, for these last 3, I'm going to make all 3 of these the same, and we are going to do, let me do it this way so you can see, we're going to do pumpkin vanilla. I kind of call it a pumpkin cookie sometimes because it just makes it sound a lot better for the kids if it's called a cookie, if it has cookie in the name. But we're going to use the same vanilla protein again to give us that hint of vanilla and some protein, some nutrition. So again, we're going to start with a 1/4 cup of vanilla protein powder. Whoops, I need my funnel for this. I'm going to make a big mess, I can tell. 1/4 cup. Okay, so now to get into our pumpkin-y flavors, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. I think I mentioned earlier in the video that whenever it comes to spices for these little individual packets, the rule of thumb I follow is just 1 teaspoon of spice, whatever that spice may be. So I'm going to do 1 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice per container. And then for the star of the show, and that is pumpkin powder. Every year in the fall, we grab a few pumpkins and dehydrate them to make pumpkin powder, and that's what we use instead of pumpkin puree, since we can't really can pumpkin puree ourselves at home. So again, I'm using a 1/4 cup measurement, 1/4 cup of pumpkin powder. This is another recipe where I probably will add maple syrup when it comes time to cook these, because the pumpkin powder is a little overpowering, and it just really, what's the word, de-sweetens the taste of the oatmeal, but it's still really delicious with the coconut sugar and the pumpkin pie spice. So these are our pumpkin vanilla oats, or what I'll call them for the kids, our pumpkin cookie oatmeal. Okay, y'all, so that is all the flavors I have for you today. But you can make these with all sorts of dehydrated and freeze-dried fruits. They are delicious. That base recipe is all you need to make up all sorts of different flavors. Hope this was helpful to y'all. We'll see you next time. Bye. Wait, don't go. I forgot to tell you how to make it. I mean, it's just instant oatmeal, y'all. So any way that you would make instant oatmeal, you can use the same process for this. But we don't have a microwave, and we do it on the stovetop. And just in case there's anyone out there who maybe doesn't have a microwave, or maybe want to switch to making it on the stovetop and you're new to cooking oatmeal on the stovetop, I do want to share how to make it real quick. So you're just going, when it comes time, you're just going to get your pot on a stovetop and dump your jar in, and then add about 1.5 cups of water to it. You can also add milk if you prefer, almond milk, vanilla. Almond milk is really good. That vanilla just complements all the other flavors really well. but water, almond milk, milk, anything like that, 1.5 cups of water. You're going to bring that up to a boil, and as soon as it comes up to a boil, turn off the heat, put the lid on, and then set a timer for about 5 minutes. Sometimes it takes less than 5 minutes. Again, this is kind of like a consistency thing where if you like your oatmeal a little bit thinner, you can add a little bit more liquid. If you like it a little thicker, you can add a little bit less liquid. So it's not a exact science when it comes to cooking it up, but that's how we do ours. Plop it in the pot, add 1.5 cups of water, bring it to a boil, turn the heat off, put the lid on, and let it sit for 5 minutes, and it's done. One thing to note, and I can't remember if I said this, is you can absolutely make this with just whole rolled oats. You don't have to process them first. Just know that it's going to take a little bit longer to cook up than the instant oats. You're probably going to be looking at closer to the 7 to 10 minute range if you just prefer to use the whole rolled oats instead of the instant oats. Okay, I think that's for real this time. I think that's the end. We do have a meal prepping overnight oats recipe. If you're interested, that will be popped up on the screen somewhere right about there, and we will see y'all next time. Bye.